Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to slow things down a bit. I want to guide you through a truly remarkable piece of history and a profound text on human endurance. We so often think of ancient philosophy as this abstract thing, developed by comfortable scholars lounging in tranquil gardens, completely removed from the noise and pain of the real world. But what if the absolute most powerful lessons on resilience were actually forged in the exact opposite environment? Well, let's dive into this and explore the crucible of a man who literally held the weight of the known world on his shoulders.
Section 1. The Imperial Crucible.
I want you to really picture this scene. We're not in a lavish marble palace in Rome. We are in a dark, freezing command tent, right on the front lines of Germania. Inside that tent is the Emperor Marcus Aurelius. By the flickering light of a solitary lamp, he is writing. Now, these private notes to himself would eventually become known to the entire world as his meditations. But he wasn't writing for publication. He was writing to simply survive his own reality. He was writing all of this during the absolute worst years of his reign. So this philosophy was definitely not born in a place of comfort, leisure, or theoretical debate. It was born in a period of extreme, unrelenting distress. The ideas we're going to unpack today were tested in the harshest laboratory imaginable.
Let's look at the mounting adversity he was actually facing. Let these points really sink in for a second. Plague. A devastating pandemic was completely ravaging his empire. War. Endless, brutal conflicts on the borders that required him to constantly be there. The death of his wife. A profoundly deep personal tragedy. And through it all, his own failing health. He was physically declining while trying to literally hold a fracturing world together. Just pause and think about the compounding weight of that era. Any single one of these events could absolutely break a person, and he faced them all at the exact same time.
Section 2. The Nightly Practice.
So how does a human mind just not completely shatter under that kind of pressure? Well, he continued his nightly practice. Despite the plague, despite the brutal war, despite his deep grief in his failing body, he sat down in that dark tent and did the hard work of examining his own mind. This was the ultimate structural test of his philosophy. Because it's one thing to be philosophical when the sun is shining and everything's going your way. But practicing through severe, crushing pressure, that is the crucible. That is where theory actually becomes reality.
Section 3. Conditions that arrive.
When we look at convergent wisdom traditions throughout human history, from the ancient Stoics to the Desert Fathers and even the Sufi mystics, we find this incredibly powerful, shared, anchoring truth. The practice is not for favorable conditions. It is for the conditions that arrive. I really want you to sit with that for a second. The pressure, the hardship, the chaos. These traditions taught that these things are not an interruption to the practice. They are the practice's actual context. Think about it. We spend so much time waiting for things to just calm down so we can finally focus, or be a better person, or find some peace. But the difficult conditions are exactly what these tools were built for in the first place.
Notice the stark difference here. On one side, we have this very fragile wish for favorable conditions, right? The hope that the plague just ends, the war stops, and everything finally goes our way. But on the other side, we have the sturdy, stoic acceptance of the conditions that arrive. It's a fundamental shift in perspective. Instead of constantly wishing for a lighter burden, the practice is actually all about building broader shoulders to carry the reality that is standing right in front of you.
Section 4. Our Human Blueprint.
So why does a Roman emperor from 2 millennia ago actually matter to us right now? Well, I want to ask you this directly. Are you in or anticipating a difficult season? Look, maybe it's not a literal war or a global plague, but maybe it's a personal struggle, a sudden professional crisis, or even just a quiet internal battle. The scale might be different, but the human experience of feeling totally overwhelmed under pressure, that is exactly the same.
If you answered yes to that question, then you, my friend, are the exact kind of person this is for. This ancient lesson in resilience wasn't written for the perfect, the comfortable, or the untroubled. It was written for the weary, the grieving, and the deeply stressed. If you are facing adversity, you are the exact intended audience for Marcus Aurelius' nightly practice.
We really want to help you take these principles right out of this explainer and apply them directly to whatever conditions are arriving in your life today. So if you want the practical materials to start building this kind of deep structural resilience, simply comment the word foundation and we'll get the workbook sent right over to you.
The capacity to endure, to quietly reflect in the darkness, and to meet hardship not as some annoying interruption to your life, but as the very material you use to forge your own character. Keep practicing. This is our human blueprint.